Okay, this is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee. Today is the 23rd of February. It's 9:41 in the morning. Our weather is 58 now, and we'll hit 66 and just overcast, no rain. Tomorrow about the same. Sunday 68 high, sunny, and then sunny and partially cloudy, no rain in sight for quite a while, which is easy on my lifestyle. Okay, Beulah is somewhat recovered. She's not, we gave her antibiotics after the surgery, so it maybe took a few days to kick in, and plus the prayers, so she's not feeling hot. She was hot to the touch. That's gone away. She's way more active, but she's still got those hormones going on, and she's got a false pregnancy, so she wants to just hole up in her kennel, thinking she's going to give birth and, have puppies and that kind of thing from the hormones. So we think the hormones will eventually work out of her system, and that'll go away probably another couple of days or something like that. So please keep the prayers going for Beulah to keep recovering and have good health and no problems. Okay, we also have an urgent prayer request for EB, Echo Bravo. EB, Echo Bravo. The prayer is for strength, stamina, and appetite to return. This is recovery from COVID. We prayed for this person, and the COVID recovery happened. But now this person has, no strength or stamina and has no desire to eat, has to force feed. This person has to force feed themselves small quantities of food and getting run down. So this is an urgent prayer for EB, Echo Bravo, to recover, have strength, energy, stamina, and an appetite. Okay. And I got that out of the way. Now I want to go do some work in the live stream. Okay, people beat me to the chat. I try to get in first and put up the offering information, but people beat me there. Okay, all right, almost there. Okay, let's do our praise, being a Bible believing site. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Please pray that I have strength and stamina and get this done right today, what I'm trying to do. On the live stream, I got up very early today because I fell asleep very early. Please pray I don't keep doing that I go to sleep at a good time and wake up at a good time. I come in from outside with the dogs when it gets cold, and I try to find something on my iPad that distracts me, and then it's boring. I fall asleep, and then I wake up about midnight, and then I go back to sleep, and I get up too early because I'm all slept out. So pray I break out of this cycle, please, and I get up at a good time and sleep well. 5 o'clock is a good time for me. I don't mind that at all. Okay, so let me see what we got in my notes here for Bible stuff, and then we'll get into this Iran war thing. All right. I was looking, I think it's Ezekiel 48 or 47, the dimensions of the land that we're going to have very shortly. And it doesn't seem to be as big as what we might have later. Okay? So let me kind of describe what I found. You can go through the whole thing, but it mentions cubits, and a cubit is basically from inside the palm to the elbow. It's just to take a rough cut at it, 21 inches. I use 20 inches just for the hay of it, So the area given to the Levites breaks out to a length of 41,000 feet, which comes to 8 miles. This is just the land for the Levites. The width is 10,000 cubits or 3.2 miles. This equates to about 25 square miles. You multiply width times length. This is about half the size of Jerusalem now, and Tiberias is 3.8 square miles, which has 40 or maybe 45,000 people. It's much smaller. This size of the land just for the Levites comes out to be about half the size of San Francisco, half the size of Disney World, the whole thing, Magic Kingdom and, Epcot and all of them put together, about half the size. If you've been to Disney World, I don't suggest that it's straight up demonic, but most of us have been there. It's huge. The Jerusalem that we're going to have very shortly breaks to 64 square miles. Brooklyn, New York, if you're familiar, is 69 square miles. So it's about that size. And 2.7 million people live in Brooklyn. Now, bear in mind there's high-rise apartment buildings and stuff like that. I'm just trying to give you an overview picture of this thing, right? Miami, not Miami Beach, Miami is 55 square miles, which is smaller. And that's a pretty good sized city. The size of New Jerusalem, Millennial Jerusalem, is 1,500 miles in each dimension, width, length, and height. amazing. Well, some people say 1380 miles, some say 50. It's around, just picking round numbers here. So that gives you a perspective. So perhaps we're going to have the land back after the great day of the Lord, and that would be the land that New Jerusalem would be over. I think New Jerusalem, it's going to come down and maybe touch on Mount Sinai, where the next temple will be, or maybe hover over with a land bridge or something like that. I don't see it landing, or I could be wrong. Maybe it does land. But when Satan's released, when the millennium's over, it says he surrounds the beloved. Well, I'll read it to you. So it makes sense. I'll explain it to you. Let's read it and then I'll show it to you. And then we'll get into the war thing. So I think we're in Revelation 20. What verse it is escapes me. Maybe, I don't know, 9 or something. Let's see. And they went up on the breadth of the earth, and that word is typically earth, it's Greek, you can't work too good with that, and compassed the camp of the saints about, and the beloved city. So the camp of the saints, one would be Jerusalem and one would be New Jerusalem. I can't figure out which is which. We could call the beloved city Jerusalem, and the camp of the saints could be where we're all living in New Jerusalem. So that would be my first choice. It could be reversed. And fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them. All right. So, it doesn't, if New Jerusalem came down and landed on Israel, there wouldn't be a Jerusalem anymore. It'd be pulverized into the earth, I guess, unless the city has no weight. I mean, if it was a spiritual city, then how would we walk on it and stuff? I don't understand. But it has see-through gold streets, and have you ever seen that? Come on, so we don't know much. We'll learn more. God will show us more as time goes on. But we don't know that much about it right now. So why am I talking about, Jerusalem very shortly becoming the size of Brooklyn? Brooklyn's pretty darn big. Okay, if you were getting on a highway, with the traffic, it would take you a long time to go from one end of Brooklyn to another. Probably an hour, 45 minutes or more, something like that. It'd be a big trip. So the old city, Jerusalem, is, I don't even know, maybe it's 1 square mile or something like that, It's nothing like the size of Jerusalem now. It's going to be much larger. So I thought that would be interesting. That's it. Okay, I had another scripture I was going to cover. 1 Samuel 15:23. I may read around that a bit. 1 Samuel 15:23. But we'll go up a little bit. We'll go to 22. And Samuel, his name is Shmuel in Hebrew. They couldn't pronounce Shmuel, so they come up with Samuel, go figure. Said, hath Jehovah as great delight in burnt offering and sacrifices as in obeying the voice of Jehovah? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to hearken than the fat of rams. For rebellion, which is what it means, rebelling against God, rebelling against the word of the Lord. For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, which is a death penalty offense under Moses' law. And stubbornness is as iniquity, that's lawlessness. And idolatry, it's the same, stubbornness is the same as lawlessness and idolatry, because thou hast rejected the word of Jehovah, he hath also rejected thee. Now, some translation, thee from king, okay? And Saul said unto Shmuel, I have sinned, for I have transgressed the commandment of Jehovah and thy words, because I feared the people and obeyed their voice. He did what the people wanted. Now therefore I pray thee, pardon my sin, and turn again with me, that I may worship Jehovah. And Shmuel said unto Saul, it's Saul, it's not Shaul, it's Saul, Saul in English. And Shmuel said unto Saul, I will not return with thee. Thou hast rejected the word of Jehovah, and Jehovah hath rejected thee from being king over Israel. So when you see these people reject the word of the Lord, like this in the left behind rapture, John 6:39, 40, 44, and 54, 4 times, and the rapture occurs on the last day, which means there are no more days. And they refuse to let go of this. They're rejecting the word of the Lord. Well, when they refuse to recognize that variance and seditions, divisions, is what denominations are a perfect example of, or definition of, even in terms of religiosity. And it says they will not enter the kingdom of God if they do those things, and he equates it with adultery and drunkenness and murder, and they refuse to give that up. They're rejected. That's it, okay? And if God doesn't reject them, then he's not telling the truth. He's lying, and that's not the case. God has to perform his word. So you got to remember that when you're dealing with these people. And, rebellion and stubbornness. Rebellion can take a lot of forms, Like there's people that insist that you could have correct Messianic congregations, And I tell the people what's going to happen is the Levites are going to run the synagogues throughout Israel, and that's how it's going to work. The people seek the word of the Lord at the mouth of the Kohanim. That's the scripture in Malachi 2. God doesn't break that. They broke the covenant with Jehovah today, but I'm one. I'm a Kohanim. I haven't broken the covenant. Okay? And when you preach the true, correct word, you'll see there'll be signs following, but you got to have the correct word for that. All right. Now, let's talk about what is America up to. But first, I need to tell you what Netanyahu is up to, because it's rather important. And I put it up on Telegram, and this is Netanyahu's statement to the Knesset, which is released to us about the day after what's going to happen in Gaza after the war's over, because it's almost over. And this is what Netanyahu is saying. He wants to raise up local officials in Gaza. That means Palestinians that live in Gaza that are not affiliated with Hamas and he wants to use them to govern Gaza, and I just saw a typo in there. I gotta fix it. Oh. Okay. Now, what they're going to do is they're going to take care of like food inspection, roads, sewage, water, electric, phones, internet, traffic lights, parking, building permits. You got the idea? Okay, that's what they're going to do. That's all they're going to do. Continuing. Netanyahu wants to completely demilitarize anything and everything in Gaza. So that means there's nothing resembling a military in Gaza. Netanyahu wants to maintain a buffer zone in Gaza, which I think is about 1 kilometer wide, Gaza land. That's not going to stop missiles and rockets, but it's going to stop infiltrators. You know, they could come in with a butcher knife, a deboning knife, or something from the kitchen or a butcher shop and attack Israelis. And they're jihadists, they don't mind dying. And so that zone will stop it because they'll have to cross this no man's land, which will have cameras, sensors, probably double fences on either side, maybe walls. It's not going to be easy for them to get through. It's 0.6 of a mile. It's a little more than half a mile wide, which is probably 11 or 12 block walk. And you're not going to easily get through that. Okay? Netanyahu, also wants to rebuild Gaza with monies from foreign entities, foreign countries, but only from countries that Israel approves of. Well, Netanyahu will probably approve of Qatar and other Muslim countries, but we're not paying for it. So there's not going to be 36 hospitals in Gaza where probably 6 would suffice. Because the hospitals were used to put underground bunkers and tunnels under them, which gave them access from the hospital into the tunnel. They used the sewage, the water, and the electricity of the hospital to run their underground bunkers. So that's all going to stop. They need 36 hospitals like a hole in the head. Arab countries, 10 times the size, maybe don't even have 36 hospitals. The border crossing to Egypt is going to be closed, and this will be maintained by Israel and America. But this doesn't have any value right now because we don't know what Biden's position will be on this. Biden wants Netanyahu to run Gaza with a reformed Palestinian Authority. Let's talk about this. The Palestinian Authority runs the Slave for Pay program, where they give money every month to the families of the terrorists killed in the process of killing Jews. And if they go to jail, he pays them a stipend every month while they're in jail. Now, I thought it was originally, I told you it was about $3,000 a month, which for a family. And that amount of money in Gaza would be like you living in Atlanta with an income of about $10,000 a month. Okay? So, will he ever cut that off? I doubt it. I doubt Biden would insist on it. So we're not going to have him. I got to fix another typo. I didn't do typos on this. The UN relief program, which I believe is administered through the UNWRA, which we found many of them were active Hamas members, even participated on October 7th, is going to cease to be allowed to operate in Gaza. So they're not going to be getting all this aid and money and all that. It goes on to say there will be no permanent settlement, that would mean a peace, with Gaza. By this, I think he means the terrorists in Gaza, unless they enter into real, true negotiations without any preconditions, which is unlikely. Netanyahu's plan has no mention whatsoever of the Palestinian Authority having any sort of a role in administration, running, or influencing Gaza. So Israel will oversee everything, and I imagine Israel will be able to control tunnels. Netanyahu also says we maintain the right for our IDF to do whatever we want in Gaza indefinitely. So they're going to occupy Gaza. We're going to make sure there's no tunnels coming in from Egypt. We have that technology. And, the tunnels come in, they got to go someplace, right? So we're going to make sure there's no place for the tunnels to go and all of that. So the tunnels from Egypt are going to be not of any value, and they're not going to be able to repair or build tunnel networks or construct weapons and so forth. It doesn't speak to what happens to the people that participated in October 7th massacre. We don't know about that. And it appears by any stretch of the imagination that Netanyahu is going to do this no matter what the nations say about it. Okay, so we've already been bombing Rafah, so right now we're very close to finishing off Rafah. Will we get the hostages back? I don't know. Hamas is getting more and more scared. Why? They're about to be unemployed. What do I mean? I'll explain. When we go into Rafah, they're going to be defunct. And with this new proposal, they're never going to gear up again. Now, this is all the man talking, not the Lord. So, they're not going to gear up again. They're not going to be able to rebuild militaristically or tunnels and underground bunkers and so forth. So what goes on? Well, they go to work, they do things, they make money, and they're not going to war. So where does this leave Hamas? They are now of no value to the enemies of Israel, which are all the Muslim states that have been giving them money, and the EU giving them money, and America giving them money, and many other countries, UK. They can continue giving them money, but Israel's not going to allow them to rebuild the war machine. So the best bet for these foreign countries is not to give them much money or give them some token money to make it look good. Because Hamas, under these conditions, does no good to them. It can't wage war against Israel. It can't attack Israel. It can't hurt or harm Israel in any way. Except occasionally some jerk could try to climb the fence, and he's probably got a 98% chance of getting shot. And if he doesn't, he'll be taken down within 60 yards once he clears the fences. So it's a joke. And that's the end of that. So why are they going to dump billions of dollars a year into Gaza. They're not. It serves no purpose anymore. They can't get weapons in. They can't do anything. Now, will the nations let Israel do this? We got to see. Now we'll talk about Lebanon. The plan Israel has is to push Hezbollah, the terrorist force in Lebanon, back to what's called the Litani River, which is 17 to 18 miles, depending how you follow the river, because the river's not straight. Inside Lebanon, away from the border, so it's 17 to 18 mile buffer zone between Lebanon and the border, where Hezbollah cannot operate. The Lebanese military can, but they don't attack us. So, in the past weeks, maybe 6 or 8 weeks, we've been attacking many Hezbollah installations inside this area, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of installations. So we're peeling we're what's the correct words here? We're wiping out their Hezbollah military comforts and conveniences inside this buffer zone. Okay? So when we go for a ground invasion, which is what it's going to take to finish it off, there's not going to be a whole lot left in there. They'll be reduced to fighting like guerrillas, in the jungle. Every time they run around with a technical, which is a pickup truck, regular pickup truck, and they attach usually a 50 caliber machine gun in the back of it on a stand, and they stand up and shoot it, and they might put a couple of small armored plates on there to give protection to the guy shooting it. That's not a whole lot of protection, because it won't cover his whole body. And they probably weld or rivet a plate into the bed of the pickup truck, and then use, hard metal screws to mount the gun in there. Now, these guns are virtually worthless against tanks and armored personnel carriers and mobile artillery that are modern. They're not going to do anything. It's going to bounce off. They can be quite deadly against ground troops walking around, for sure. They could possibly bring down a helicopter, but that's not so easy. And they could take out a Jeep, a regular Jeep, and stuff like that. But as soon as we see a technical in this buffer zone, we'll take it out. Now, there's a high probability that we would maintain some presence in the buffer zone, or the UN would, or we would constantly have reconnaissance over it, and we would take out anything we saw that appeared threatening. This would allow the people that had to evacuate their land up at the north by the border, a good 80,000 or more, to return home. The people in the south, the IDF near Gaza, already said if you live more than 4 miles from Gaza, you could come home. But yesterday they did manage to squeeze off at least one rocket. So let me see if they got any rockets out today. I heard some red alerts, but I don't know where they came from, but I could check. Not hard to check. Let's see what happened. 9:30 this morning, about 45 minutes ago, something came from Lebanon at the border zone. No, it was just an unrecognized aircraft. Many times that's false alarm. It means a drone typically. And then at about the same time, we had another red alert of an undisclosed nature up at the border. And then the last thing we had was at 10 o'clock at night, which was up by the Lebanon border. And we had one at 9:12 last night. Came into the goal line. I'm assuming it came from Lebanon. And then at 8:17 last night, we had a red alert near Gaza. Probably that was the rocket or missile I heard. And then that was it. The Houthis tried to take a shot at Eilat, and it was taken down by an Arrow anti-missile missile. See, when you shoot at Israel from a distance and you're using subsonic under 750 mile an hour missiles, it gives our radar and our computers a good long opportunity to get a lock on it, calculate the trajectory. They don't have missiles. They can change the flight path in while it's flying and take it down. So it's an easy takedown. So the Houthis missiles are highly ineffective against us. They try to bring drones in as well, and they are not doing so good with any of them. Okay, that's the update. Not much going on in Syria right now, or Iraq in terms of us. American bases are still getting attacked in Syria with regularity. So, will America attack Iran? Well, what we have to do is we have to take a look at what Biden's plan is with the snare. What is really going on? Open border Biden. Let me take a quick flash through the chat because we got nasty people in there. Well, somebody wants to, I don't know what they're talking about, Emperor Palpatine and Star Wars, I think. Anyway, I get the junk out. All right. So, Biden is obviously, with the open border, trying to destroy America. Now, I'm getting figures that there's been 7 million that come in that they know about, not counting those that come in from Canada they don't know about, come in from Florida and California via the sea they don't know about, and come in across the Mexico border that are undetected and they don't know about. So it's pretty likely that it's, I don't know, 8 to 12 million and, stuff like that. And 70% are military-age males. So even with the 7 million figure, you got about 500,000 military-age males in America, which are basically probably trained soldiers to some extent, or trained terrorists, or both. So you have a lot. they're going to take out the military bases. They don't ever tell you that, but that's what's going to happen. I mean, why are they going to run around taking over little cities of 25, 50, 100,000? What's the point? Taking over a city of 100,000 could be very difficult, by the way. It may require, 10,000 troops or more, Why? They're going to meet resistance. They're going to have gunfights with the people. They're going to get killed. They're going to get wounded. What are they going to gain? They're going to get Burger King, McDonald's, Fridays, Applebee's, Outback. What are they going to get? The mall? They're not looking for that. They take out the military, then they can go pick off whatever they want. So Biden is obviously on this program. So how could he enhance or make it better for them? To deploy the American military outside of America. So the American military is drastically reduced in size and scope, and equipment, and everything else. Now, the snare. Now, when Jeremiah 50:24 says Jehovah, Father God Jehovah, put the daughter of Babylon, America, in a snare. And they're in the snare now. And the snare is being worked from within the government. They're going with the beast against the daughter of Babylon. Now, I could speculate Satan has had it with churchianity. It hasn't gotten him where he wants to go. Israel's never been removed since 48. Israel is growing, and prophecy is coming down to the wire, and Satan's scared. So he's trying to, get rid of the daughter. The beast is working with Satan, and they're trying to get rid of the daughter of Babylon. And they want to replace it with probably straight up idolatry and or Muslim or Islam, because they advocate, killing of Israel and the Jews, removing Israel. That's their doctrine. Now, do all of them adhere to it? The Sunnis don't really do much about it at all. They don't seem to. It's the Shiites only that seem to take this active role. So they have divisions between them, between Sunni and Shiite, and they don't get along too good. So Israel seems to be about finished cleaning house on Hamas, which Biden didn't want any of this. Biden wants Hamas reestablished in Gaza to build up again and come after us again, which they would do within a maximum of 2 weeks. They'd start shooting rockets. Maybe they'd wait a month, but they would start polishing us off again if they could. So Biden's not, and the nations of the world are not going to be in favor of Netanyahu's ideas for Gaza, but are they willing to do anything about it? Well, if they were to raise a big army, they could probably, in a secular viewpoint, attack Israel and wipe Israel out. God wouldn't let that happen, but they don't. They probably know that. I'm going to be back in a second. They're afraid to do something like that. They don't mind having throwaway countries, if you want to call them countries, like Hezbollah and Hamas do it, but they're not about to take a chance. And look what happened to Hamas.
They tried to blow him up again. It's his car they blew up about a month ago. And the police had to come and bring the zapper. Somebody else set a bomb out in front of his house. I mean, Ken, that's dangerous.
I know it is. Okay, Chiefy. Oh, you're not here.
Has Mommy been back outside? Have we all been back outside at all?
No, not since you left. No, Mommy. I didn't come in that long ago. Mommy's in the kennel.
She doesn't have to be in the kennel.
Well, I thought I'd put her in the kennel. She's okay. So things are not going well for Biden. Okay? Israel's phasing out from Gaza and phasing in for Lebanon. So Netanyahu, trying to win popularity with the people so he doesn't get removed from office, is doing what the people want him to do, which is not serving God, not going to the Torah or anything like that, not getting on hands and knees and crying out to Jehovah for help. They're trusting in their troops and their tanks and their planes, which is all going to come to an end. So they're getting ready to knock off Lebanon. Remember, we're in the year of recompenses, and look what happened to Hamas in Gaza. It was ugly for them. Ugly for us, what they did. So Netanyahu's trying to stay in power, and Biden is not happy with Netanyahu. He'd probably prefer Gantz, but Gantz may not deliver to Biden what Biden wants either. Okay, which is leave Gaza alone, let them rebuild and kill you again. America gives money to Mahmoud Abbas, to the Palestinian Authority, to run the slave for pay program. I mean, come on, is that not Biden against the Israel people? Is that not anti-Semitic? The EU gives him money, the UN gives him money, the UK gives him money, all the countries give him money. Is that not anti-Semitic? What do you think? Knock, knock, come on. Okay? So the nations are already against Israel. But it's not working. Because Jehovah has another plan. And he divides them against themselves. Now, demons that run different countries, we read in the Old Testament, they war against each other and stuff like that. The demons don't all get along. Okay? They don't operate in unity. Okay? They might at this point in time try harder because they know that the time is close for them going into the pit, but they're not. A house divided unto itself shall not stand, and their house is not going to stand. So, what is Biden's next move here? He's not going to fight against Lebanon for us. He just said he did at the beginning of the war that he won't. He looks like he's going to give us more bombs, which is going to be used in Lebanon. You got to understand, Biden, Netanyahu, and all the rest of the world leaders, every single one of them are profound, prolific liars. And what they tell you, it's reasonably safe to assume it's not true. Okay? So Biden may not really want this Gaza thing to develop. Satan might be thinking of, let's give Israel some victory here with Lebanon and Gaza, and then when the war's over, let's bring them into Abrahamic Accord deals, which are against the Torah. You don't make treaties with the surrounding neighbors that are really our enemies. Let's bring them into Abrahamic Accords with who? Well, they already got the UAE. Jordan has some relationships with us. They would work on Oman, Saudi Arabia would be a big one. Bahrain, Qatar, maybe, although I can't imagine Qatar doing it, but they might. And Yemen, you could forget. Okay? They're not going to do it. So the big preaching we're hearing is an Abrahamic Accord or recognition of each other with Saudi Arabia. We're hearing that from America, left, right, and center. Is that really going to do anything for Israel? I've lived here many years. I don't know what. You think Saudi Arabia is going to give us a sweetheart gas deal? Forget it. What are they going to... They want weapons from us. They want technology. Tourism, what are you going to do in Saudi Arabia? Walk around and look at oil wells? It's a Sharia law state. What are you going to do there? The UAE is different. It's got amusement parks. It's a Sharia law state. But it has a lot of international tourism, heavy Muslim and non-Muslim. It's got the most duty-free shopping zone in the world. I mean, that place is really duty-free. Okay? When you go to Nassau, the Bahamas, in the Caribbean, they say it's duty-free. It's a lie. It's absolutely not. They have duty on it. So you could buy things a lot cheaper in the UAE than you would in the US, and particularly what type of things would justify this size of a trip. Expensive watches, earrings, necklaces, bracelets, rings, designer goods like those Chanel purses that sell for 30, 40, 50,000 and more. Things like that, $700 sunglasses or $1,000 sunglasses, $1,500, $1,800 women's shoes, and stuff like this. So people with money will go over there and they buy a pair of Malachi. I can't remember the names of these designers, Baladnik or so, I don't know. They sell shoes that could be thousands of dollars for women. So a woman goes over there, she buys a couple of pairs of shoes. She's going to be there 10, 15 days. She takes the shoes and wears them. Throws the box away, throws the receipt away, right? Pays cash if she can, getting money out of the ATM machines, bringing cash. And so it's not going to show on a credit card statement. And wears them around Dubai for... you don't have to wear them that much. You scuff the soles up and you make them look worn. You take all the tags out, any kind of stickers out of them. And you could even, if you wanted to go further, take the insoles out, which have the name of the manufacturer, which is very expensive, and mail them to yourself. It looks like you ordered a pair of new insoles to the postal service, which isn't going to bother you. It has no real value. That's going to be taxed. So they bring in, 3 or 4 pairs of very expensive shoes, and they lie, and they say, well, I bought these in San Francisco or Dallas or whatever, right? I don't know. I bought them at the mall. I bought them at Dallas Mall. I don't know what store it was. They lie. They'll just lie. And they could do that with purses. They could do that with... Purse is a little hard because you can't put wear on the purse. Perfume, they could do it with expensive... perfume, you could easily drop, $400, $500, $600 a bottle. And, they got to be conservative or it's going to look bad. You could go without a wristwatch and go over there and buy a Patek Philippe for a lot of money and wear it every day when you're there. Wear it in the shower. Make sure you get soap scum under the clasp and in between the links and stuff like that, and bring that back. And the the same thing. Well, you're a rich person, you travel like that. Now, you don't want to go through customs with the thing on your wrist because that's going to attract them to open up all your luggage. And if they see a lot of these goods in the luggage, they're going to be confused. None of them are going to look new. None of them are going to look like they're in a box. It would be unreasonable for them to tell you that you have to present receipts for this. I mean, they could do it if they want to be ugly with you and do a confiscation, but as long as you don't overdo it and you mix it in with other things, they're just going to think you're went over there. What was the purpose of your trip? We took the kids to the amusement parks. We wanted to see the place. We never saw it. No, what are you going to say? Or I went to this event. There was some music concert I went to, or whatever, whatever. I mean, if you overdo it and you come back with 2 suitcases full of stuff that's all very expensive designer stuff and not well used, they may drop on you. So that's the duty-free shopping business, But, I mean, what are you going to do in Oman? I mean, I don't know what you would do in Jordan either. What are you going to do in Jordan? Or Kuwait? Or, there's nothing in these places. What are you going to do there? UAE is the only place that really has any attraction. Lebanon used to, in the 50s, be a great tourist attraction internationally. People came from all over to go over there. It wasn't a wacko, didn't have the wacko Hezbollah murdering terrorists over there. They have beautiful beaches, so they have beach hotels, beach resorts, sidewalk cafes. People would have coffee, espresso, cappuccino, wine, beer, whatever, right? Sit outside, restaurants. They had, they probably had lightweight amusement parks. And, they in UAE, Dubai, they got, Warner Brothers has $1 billion amusement park. There's a lot of things there. Ferrari has some roller coaster thing where they look like Ferrari race cars that cost a fortune. They got they got several, not amusement parks, theme parks, real theme parks, the real McCoy, and they're not very crowded. So, there's all kinds of stuff they could do there. But in these other countries, what are you going to do there? What are you going to export into Israel from them? Now, I see things. I bought a very cheap espresso machine the other day. I was thinking I would start making espresso. It's less liquid, and I tried it, and this is not working out too good for me. I have to try different kinds of espresso, I guess, over time, and it's not working out. It uses the capsules, and I'm not happy with it. I didn't want to get a real big, complicated one because it's expensive, and then you got to get a coffee grinder and get the beans, and I didn't want to go down that road. So I tried this. It's a little cheap machine, and it's not working out too good. So, okay. So they keep talking to us, the Israeli government and the Americans, about how great it'll be to have an open deal, relations with Saudi Arabia. What the heck for? I mean, for what? What are we going to get out of it? The only thing they make is gas. I mean, and they're never going to give us a discount. They want the prices high in Israel to keep people from moving here, from Jews moving here. So, would there be a reason why Netanyahu wants Israel to actually knock out Hamas and knock out Lebanon? I don't think America has a single reason for that. But for some reason, they're afraid to stop it. Now, Jeremiah 50:51 tells us they're going to do evil things to us, which they already did on October 7th, and they're going to do more. It was it wasn't that they sent soldiers over here, But anyway, So what is America trying to do? Well, what Satan's trying to do, and that's stop Israel. But they may be watching what happened in Hamas, and they might be thinking that this is not something they could accomplish right now. And the more that the nations try to knock off Israel, Israel is likely to conquer them or come out victorious and gain more geographic land, which they're really, really afraid of. So they may be thinking, let's temporarily go back to an Israel that we could corrupt, which we've done since 1948, and pour the money onto Israel, and then the people will start going into, oh, we're God's chosen people, look how wealthy we're getting. Starting around the year 2000, 2002, Israel started having a really good economy. So then what happens when they have a really good economy? Well, they start buying frivolous, prideful items, jewelry, cars, clothing, stuff like that. Going out and partying, taking vacations, drinking, adultery, fornication, the morality goes down and all of that. And then after they get Israel more immoral, they can try again. Now that's them, not Jehovah's plan. Jehovah's plan is not that. Now Yemen, Houthis in Yemen, they're aggravating the situation much more, hitting ships. They hit a ship the other day with 2 missiles. It managed to sail away, although it's a motor vessel. They say sail away. And it broke out into fire, and I believe they had to get evacuated. The ship was burning and in danger of sinking. So they got evacuated, and are they going to wind up as hostages or be returned? We don't know. So the attacks that the UK and the US are putting on the Houthis are doing no good. The Iranians have a warship in the Red Sea that's using its sophisticated radar to find targets, ships to target, giving the coordinates to the Houthis. They launch a drone, a naval drone, a submarine drone, an anti-ship missile, whatever they can muster up, right? Or multiples of each, or mixing missiles with drones. And Iran guides the drones, missiles, and so forth into the target. So will America blow up the Iranian ship? If they tell it to leave, it'll refuse to leave. If they blow it up, then what's Iran going to do? And what's America going to do? Well, America may, in fact, tell it to leave the area or they're going to destroy it. But before they do that, they're going to try to jam their radar and stuff like that. As to date, they've been rather unsuccessful in jamming radar at all on this ship, and the Houthis are getting successful hits on naval vessels. So more and more ships are dropping out and using the Red Sea. Now, any junior officer with, let's say, major or colonel, not junior, majors, colonels, and up in the Pentagon that are in on this Yemen Houthi thing know darn well they're not going to have a victory without a ground invasion. It's elementary, my dear Watson, to quote Sherlock. They have to do that. The Houthis are making fun of them and saying they're bombing decoy radars and decoy missile launchers. In other words, they're not real. They're props. Maybe they make them out of wood, painted with paper mache or whatever. They're not real, and America is bombing those. Its reconnaissance is picking it up as, targets, and they're blowing up nothing. To date, the Americans have been rather spectacularly unsuccessful in stopping the Houthis from doing anything that's substantial. They have not prevailed at all. So, what are they going to do next? That's the million-dollar question. I think America's taking its time and letting the Houthi situation just simmer and boil and get more and more countries mad to avoid a lot of negativity politically around the world. They probably want to get, if they can, 10 or 15 or more countries involved with a ground invasion into the Houthis in Yemen. That'll stop it. And it might only take a month. But they're going to probably need 250,000 or more troops. And America could flip 250,000 troops over there, but there's not that much light at the end of the Houthi tunnel after they destroyed the Houthis. Okay? So Israel knocks out Hamas, then Lebanon, and then the Houthis go. Prophetically, it's being fulfilled. It's in the scriptures. And Israel will be at peace and rest, very temporarily. So now you got to listen, without a Hamas and without a Hezbollah in Lebanon, there's not much left that Iran has. Iran can't defend itself against Israel or America or the UK or France or Italy or Germany with airstrikes. They can't. They can't stop the stealth planes. The Iranian Navy is basically a conglomeration of junk. They have maybe a handful of real warships, maybe 5 or 6 or 7 or nothing. A lot of they take civilian ships and they mount missile launchers on those by the dozen. But these ships are not high seas worthy. You can't cross the Atlantic with them. So Iran can't really operate outside of the Persian Gulf with their navy. They did have a few ships they could creep down to the Indian Ocean, and they bothered India, and then India now has either 10 or 12 ships down here. So America is probably trying to organize as many foreign countries as they can to do an air invasion into Yemen, because that's the only thing that's going to stop it. While Biden may not want to stop it, he has to make it look like he stops it for his coalition partners in other countries. So I think America's going slow, and they're letting the pot boil over, and so the other countries decide to help them. But the real problem is not that, it's Iran. And we'll talk in a minute why America would want to hit Iran, and it's not what you think at all. Biden doesn't want to knock out Iran. He gave them $6 billion of released sanction money in December. He doesn't want to get rid of them. Okay? They've got sleeper agents in America. China does, Russia does, North Korea does, the drug cartels do. Muslim terrorist organizations have them there in the millions. What Biden's big fear is now, in his operating against his own country, his big fear is that the military or the militias or both will rise up against him, overthrow the country, put it back to the status of a republic, put it on gold and silver, and rebuild the daughter of Babylon with all their churchianity and everything else like this. This is Satan's big fear that they don't want. And the beast doesn't want this. The beast doesn't want this. Satan wants to go to Islam, and then he wants to go to straight up idolatry with statues and stuff like that. And sticks and stones, as you could say. All right? They also know that when you rise up the nations to come against Israel and attack Israel, since 1948, what happens is Israel wins and takes land back. They don't want that. They don't want that. They're not in favor of that. Hamas sort of broke ranks and just did it amongst themselves. And they're trying to save Hamas, but it's not going that well. Israel's too afraid to just bomb them into oblivion. This government of Israel is. The two witnesses aren't going to care about any government in the world. They're just going to do what is good for Jehovah, what Jehovah wants them to do, which is to build Israel up. So they're not going to pay attention to the nations one bit. Not anything, not even 1%. So if Biden engages the Houthis on the ground, he can move some military here. You have to understand, I believe it's 53 or 58,000 American soldiers are currently in Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Oman, UAE, Bahrain, Qatar, and Kuwait, and I think I said Jordan, 53 or 58,000. Now that may have increased. That's a lot of soldiers to protect these characters. And they want to protect these characters against Shiite Iran, because Iran and these others are very interested in doing a wipeout on Israel, which since 1948 has never worked, and it's backfired on them. So instead, they want to draw Israel into doing stupid things that are sinful, like giving the West Bank back. Okay? As a very last resort, Satan will go to attacking Israel when he gets to the point where, what the heck, I got no other choices. Okay? And that's Zechariah 12. But I think Biden's going to attack Iran because they're always saying, we don't want a war with Iran, we don't want to escalate with Iran. Well, when they say that, it's a pretty safe assumption that it's a lie. Because just about everything they ever say is a lie. So they're probably going to attack Iran, and they're not going to wait a lot of time for it either. And it's going to give. I mean, what about just letting Iran attack Israel? Iran can't attack Israel. They don't have missiles that are going to hit Israel, let alone accurate missiles. They can't stop Israel using stealth jets to bomb Iran. They have no defenses. Okay, Israel can take out all their Navy boats, which are mostly go-fast junk boats and barges and merchant marine ships converted into missile launching platforms at sea, which are not seaworthy. You're not going to be able to cross oceans with these things. And, in the Persian Gulf, yeah. Could you possibly hug the shore and go out of the Persian Gulf to the Sea of Oman and cut around and come up in the Red Sea by hugging the coastline where the waves are not so bad and come in to the Red Sea? Probably. Or who are they going to hit with missiles in the Red Sea, Attack Navy ships that way? It's a joke. The Navy ship will blow them out of the water immediately. If he attacks Iran, he's probably never going to prevail, and he knows that. So he's not presenting a real threat to Iran. Now, listen to me. In this axis of evil, you have the first tier, the top dogs. And the top dogs in this are Russia and China. And they want to get rid of America. They need to get rid of America because America is breaking them with the sanctions. It may take more years, but they're pelting them. They're wrecking their economies. Okay? Then the next tier down, the less important nations, are North Korea and Iran. They're powerful, they're big, they're not very modern, they're crazy, they're gung-ho, they don't mind losing hundreds of thousands of soldiers and millions of people in their population. They don't care. And they're suffering from sanctions. Then your third tier, probably the least important, are Hamas, Hezbollah, the various Iranian-backed militias in Iraq and Syria, to some extent Iraq, the Houthis and these kind of terrorist operations, and they're not very important. They're throwaway. So the way Biden could accelerate the demise of the U.S. is to move a few 100,000 soldiers into the Middle East and get them involved in some wars that are never going to get won, like the Houthis in Yemen. They're just not going to put enough of the right equipment and the right soldiers in and do the job correctly. It's just going to be a big, boom, boom, boom thing. They're not going to knock off the Houthis. They may inhibit their ability to launch missiles for a temporary period of time during the fighting, but that's it. But if he attacks Iran, that's going to require at least 250,000 troops from America. Now, he might be able to raise another 200 or 250,000 from the other nations, and the EU may help out. How would they attack Iran? Well, the correct way would be to do a lot of airstrikes for a couple of weeks. And they would do the airstrikes probably from outside the Persian Gulf, Sea of Oman area, where Iran has no capability to attack these ships of America, like aircraft carriers. They'd launch fighter jets with air refueling tankers, and they would refuel and reach Iran and hit their targets and come home. It's not going to accomplish a lot. Iran has tunnels, underground airplane hangars, underground command centers, even deeper underground than they had in Gaza. So when America has a lot of their troops deployed to either attack the Houthis in Yemen and or Iran, possibly Lebanon, although I'm not expecting it, I do expect them to put troops in Israel, though. Putting them in Gaza is pretty much the same thing as putting them in Israel. He moves a lot of troops in the Middle East, and America's more vulnerable to the sleeper agents than an invasion by China and Russia. And China and Russia may not bother attacking Europe and attacking Taiwan. They just attack America. The rationale would be we could bring them into negotiations with us after that very easily. And that could be what they do. Iran has lots of mountains, and it would be very hard for America to reach into Tehran and the inner cities. It would probably take months or years if they ever got there. They would win, if they wanted to. Iran is not that powerful, okay? Neither is Lebanon. They just tell you they are, okay? Don't believe them. So they could do that, okay? It's a great alibi, and he could use the Houthis for his trigger to start attacking Iran. So Iran comes to the aid of the Houthis, which is already the case with that Iranian warship in the Red Sea. And then Biden says, we got to stop Iran. This is too much. And then he takes the military and a lot of equipment out of America, brings it to the Middle East, and turns against Iran. Now, it's in Biden's best interest to get countries like Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Oman, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, and Dubai to put military into a coalition to also attack Iran, which these guys would probably do if they felt they had a big chance of winning, because they don't like Iran. The other way of looking at this is Iran will keep provoking America, and then America will attack Iran. So it doesn't have to take the format of Biden gets up in the morning, today we're going to get Iran. No. It's just Iran, like that warship in the Middle East, in the Red Sea. It's assisting in the stopping of the shipping. So more and more countries start getting madder and madder, and they come in with a coalition, and they go against Iran. Remember, Russia and China don't care that much about Iran. They like to savor. But Iran's not going to go down very easily. They're not going to be able, they can create beachheads on the water with the Persian Gulf, and they could fortify the beachheads. And bring bigger forces in to do a land incursion. But doing a land incursion, you can't take tanks and armored personnel carriers and Humvees and very easily go over mountain ranges. The Iranians will have their soldiers dug into these mountains in caves and tunnels with shoulder-fired rockets, towed artillery, machine gun nests, mortars, and they'll rain all kinds of ordnance down on the Americans. It could take years. Then, while America is otherwise distracted, the sleeper agents take out the military bases, which are depleted by half or 70%, and there's not much left. Another thing that could happen is Iran gets aggressive more and more, and they start more and more trouble in the Sea of Oman, nearby Indian Ocean and Persian Gulf, and they might try to get Morocco to close the Straits of Gibraltar, which is a very narrow pincher point, and stop the flow of shipping from the Atlantic Ocean into the Mediterranean. Which would be rather devastating to the world, and then they would raise up. See, we've also got to keep an eye on Jeremiah 30:11, where he's going to destroy all the nations that he dispersed Israel into. And these are adversaries of Jehovah because they're all adamantly against Israel. The UK is looking at putting sanctions on some of the so-called settlers living in the West Bank for their activities against the Palestinians. And they probably will do it if they haven't already done it. And other countries, they're all against us. So if Iran rises up, he could drag them into the war too. Now, at the same time as this fighting with Iran, China could hit Taiwan. Russia could hit Poland, Moldova, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, whatever. These countries are poorly able to defend themselves. It would take Russia hours or perhaps a half a week to take these countries over. They can't defend themselves. They're going to call on NATO. Well, France is going to be pretty slow to jump in, as will the UK. They'll do something initially, but it'll be small. It's, a real mess. That's basically it. I think we got to watch this very closely. What's Turkey going to do? Yeah, that's another good question. Probably not a lot right now. Probably not a lot. We may see peace in Israel very shortly. Get ready for that. It's not going to be serious. It's not going to be long lasting. But it will calm things down here. And I think give the two witnesses a chance to get going here. Because remember, we first see Elijah in Malachi 3. We also see the next temple in Malachi 3, and we see the glory of God of Israel who occupies the next temple there. And Elijah is training the Levites and how to do the offerings in the next temple and make the offerings acceptable to the Lord. So, Jehovah may give us a time out from the war. Let Elijah get the Levites going. The temple comes down from heaven, the next one. It's the house made without hands. It's not New Jerusalem, believe me, it's not. And the Temple Mountain will probably get built up. The nations will be pretty scared about this whole thing, and they'll really Satan will really want them to kill Israel then, and he'll deceive them and lie to them and everything else. And they'll when the offerings are acceptable unto the Lord from the temple, then made by the Levites and the Kohanim, then perhaps the sons of Zadok will emerge at that time too. And then we can have the blessings of the law, and our enemies don't have a chance, which is what it appears to be in Zechariah 12. So I'm thinking still there'll be a near time, in the near future, some sort of a peace. It may be artificial peace or very short-lived, or whatever terminology you want to pin on it. And that'll be the time when things will start. And by the time we get to Zechariah 12, the government and the IDF are not around anymore. So it's a hard situation to cut through, but this is where I think we're going. The fighting in Hamas is going to be over pretty quick. And when that's over, we don't know if Lebanon is going to continue attacking us. They might say, leave Gaza or we're going to keep attacking you. Okay? They might say that. The Houthis might say that. Then Israel's going to attack Lebanon. I don't think Lebanon is going to put up that much of a fight like they say they are. What are they waiting for? They don't want to see us go all out against them. That's what they're waiting for. They're trying to bluff us and get us to stop fighting in Gaza. It's not working. They're keeping it up. As long as they believe we're not going to go invade them, they're keeping it up. But they might be able to hit some cities with missiles. But guys, it's short-lived. They're going to get, I mean, Israel's already strategically taking out their locations near our border for weeks. The next phase is lots of air attacks and tanks and troops going in. And they're talking about doing it over Ramadan, which starts March 10th to April 9th. And it's a bloody holiday normally. And with attacking Lebanon, it'll be even more bloody. So if you wanted to raise the ire or get the Muslim states mad, that would be a really choice way of doing it, beyond the shadow of a doubt. The attacks on the AT&T phone network were not solar flares because AT&T was the only one affected. If it was solar flares, then you would have seen the other cell phone companies get affected as well. It was not. It was not a solar flare, and I've watched this solar flare stuff for many years, at least 7 or 8 years, 6 years, 7 years. Nothing ever happens. They bellyache solar flares, and I don't see anything. No, I mean nothing. Nothing comes to pass. I don't see anything. So that wasn't it, and also the pharmacies got hit. You know, why didn't the car dealers get hit by the solar flare, for instance? You know, I'll be right back. when you analyze this thing, for Biden to press forward with his sabotage plan, he needs to move as much of his military out of America as he can. And then we come up with, why doesn't China just attack Taiwan and that'll do it? Because China are the most cautious people you could imagine. They follow Sun Tzu, Art of War, which I read many, many years ago. It's not worth anything. It's not for people that follow God and the Bible. And they don't trust Russia, they don't trust Iran, they don't trust North Korea, they don't trust America, they don't trust anybody. China trusts nobody. So they're afraid. What if they go and start attacking Taiwan and Biden gets sick, has a heart attack, gets impeached, and somebody else winds up in there? Then what's he do? Then they're in trouble. Then they're going to be getting bombed and everything else. So China is very slow to move. Very slow. Russia is much bolder than China. They might move. But if they can embed America deeply in the Middle East, it's the best thing for them. They're not going to conquer Europe and Taiwan and Japan and South Korea first. They're going to get rid of America and then go back and do it. That would be their plan. It's just not necessarily going to be the way it's going to work out. But that would be the best thing for them. To get dominion over the world, they got to get rid of America. And they know it. And Biden is complicit with the unclean spirits that are doing this. So Iran is a great way to move a lot of soldiers and military assets out of America. And Iran is not that important, and the chances of America, if they wanted to, conquering Iran would take years. And they would have to embed, probably before it's over, 1 million troops. They'd probably have to revitalize the draft again. They'd need, 4,000 or 5,000 tanks, or at least 2,000 or so. You'd need, they'd probably have at least 3 or 4 aircraft carriers in theater. All kinds of stuff. And it would take years. They're not going to be able to do it. The mountain ranges, the size of Iran, it's not going to work. If America put their mind to it, and of course prophetic time's not going to allow, could they take out Iran in a year or two? Yeah. But what do they do while they're doing it if Russia attacks Europe and China attacks Taiwan, Japan, South Korea, and all of that? So if America's embedded in Iran, they have an option of attacking Europe and the Pacific, and at the same time hitting America, because the sleeper agents will disable whatever's left of America. They may try to take the whole enchilada. So a key, and there's really 2 likely possibilities for Biden to get troops into the Middle East, and that's the Houthis and Iran, and he may do both simultaneously. And move hundreds of thousands of troops and tanks and planes and everything else, boats, into the Middle East, leaving America rather vulnerable. Now, he has to make it look justifiable. The thing that Biden and his henchmen are afraid of is American militia and patriots and survivalists and gun collectors rising up against DC. And that's why they passed, or in process of getting a bill passed, making militias or forming militias a crime. They want to get rid of the militias. They're scary to them. And they want to make sure that the American military doesn't rise up and overthrow the government. Then they lose. They can't have that. They're also afraid of, they don't have a sense of Bible prophecy timing like we do. But they're also afraid of, what if things drag on long enough and Trump gets elected? Trump has a lot of real estate holdings around the world that he's not exactly going to be happy to lose. So he's going to get very aggressive. He would start by increasing the military with high salaries and try to bring another 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 into the military. He wouldn't go to a draft. I don't think we're going to see another presidential election in America because we're in the year of recompenses. But they don't know that. They don't believe that, and they got a plan for that. That's why China's very, very scared. If China just attacked Taiwan, then America has to reciprocate, and then North Korea attacks South Korea, and Japan gets into fracas, and the Philippines and Guam, and then, 70 or so Navy vessels are going to be out there in the Pacific. But again, that's very much too late, because once China puts 100,000 boots on the ground in Taiwan, how are you going to get them out? They're going to dig bunkers. They're not going to do tunnels. They're going to build concrete bunkers like Hitler did. They'll make them several feet thick. You could hit them with artillery and bombs. And, if you build these things 6 feet thick, what the heck are you going to blow it up with, China might put 250,000 in there or 500,000. How are you going to get out? How are you going to get them out? It's going to take millions of soldiers. So if America's fighting Iran and then China does attack, the fight's not going to go to the China mainland. Who's going to attack China mainland? Nobody. Nobody's going to attack. So they're going to be bolder. If Russia starts getting pioneering in Europe and starts attacking European countries, China will get bold too, but then Russia's scared too. It doesn't trust China. And China's worried if they get into a big war, India will move on them and start taking land back. If China gets into a war with India, they're going to bust each other up so bad. They'll both look like third world countries. Not that India doesn't and China don't already look that way. But the militaries will be like third world countries. So it's a real mess what's going on here. Azerbaijan and Armenia are expected to break out into war, and Armenia is an ally of Iran. That Iran's expected to help. How does that work? What's Pakistan going to do? Who's an ally of China? It's too late to, if Biden put border controls in on the border today, it wouldn't do any good. Fighting over closing the border is good for them, but they really need to make a plan to start immediately deporting these aliens, but they can't because they legitimize them with their amnesty. They're not illegals. They're legal. How you can get them out? You can't play roundup. They're not illegal. What are you going to do? New York City is giving these migrants that come in and seek amnesty a $10,000 value cash card. You heard me right, each one. That's rechargeable. Where are they getting the money from? Where is New York City going to get enough money to give 100,000 of these people? I'm just picking a figure as to how many there are. A $10,000 cash grant. They got to be getting it from Biden. I don't think New York City's got money like that to give away. And then they also try to give them housing and all this stuff. So Biden is probably got to move forward with his plan quickly. And Yemen and Iran are the most likely suspects. He can't do anything with Taiwan unless China makes a move. And I think China's afraid to make a move. He can't do anything with Russia and Europe unless Russia makes a move, and I don't see Russia making the move. They're just bluffing. You know, putting weapons by Finland and stuff like that. The only ones that are really making a move is Yemen, the Houthis, and Iran, and Lebanon, and Hamas. Biden's not going to send troops to help Israel fight Lebanon. Iran is also afraid to jump into this thing. They don't know what's going to happen. They're all scared. Biden is not stable politically, and they think they may have to survive another election in America. And what do? If things don't work right and they wind up with Trump, see, they think year of recompenses, year of redemption is nonsense. It's not going to happen. So, because of all these fears they have, that's why you see things like they can't stay on a straight path. They keep zigging and zagging because they're confused, they're concerned, they don't know what to do. And this is such a big move, they're probably fearful and hesitant. So, it's going to happen. This is such a big move, it'll happen. And that's what we got to look for. So I do think Biden's going to engage probably something upgraded with the Yemen initially and then Iran. Maybe he'll do something in the Houthis and then the Iranian-backed proxies in Syria and Iraq will upgrade more attacks and more serious attacks on America, more troops, and then they'll start doing airlifts over here. More Navy vessels and stuff like that. They won't go boots on the ground into Iran so fast. They won't. Biden has to make it look justifiable to the American military and the American people. So if American soldiers get killed in Iraq, Syria, Yemen, whatever, then the American military is going to say, yeah, we got to get revenge, let's go. And that's the way Biden will do it. Is there a chance that Russia will try to take over the NATO countries before they hit America or at the same time? I don't think so. I don't think so. Ukraine's going to have F-16s in another month or two. And they're going to be able to fly missions inside Russia. And that'll destabilize Putin, and Putin may not want that to happen. China may make a move at getting control of Taiwan. You know, it'll only take China a matter of a few days to get control of Taiwan. The few warships that America has in the Pacific will be worthless against China. It would take America 30 days to mobilize, and it would be way too late. China would be not only occupying Taiwan, but entrenched. And maybe Japan. And North Korea would be bombing for weeks South Korea and take them over too. So we know the daughter of Babylon is going to go down this year. We know how it's going to happen. The year of recompenses is over approximately the last day in July, give or take a handful of days. And we got, basically March, April, May, June, July. We got 5 months plus a few days. It's a lot of time. Remember, Biden can initiate airstrikes on Iran, which is how the war would start, any time. What's it take them 24 hours to bring a mountain of planes into theater? Easy. So there we have it. So in Israel, again, I think things are going to wind down. Lebanon may stop when the fighting in Gaza stops. That way they could stay around to play again another day without getting wiped out. They may try that. The Houthis may do the same thing. But I don't think so. I don't think so. That's it. So please pray for me, Moshe, and my wife. Pray for our peace, safety, protection, and joy. Pray for our animals and pets to be happy, healthy, and whole. Please keep the prayers going for Beulah. She's much better, but she still has this false pregnancy thing with the hormones, and she thinks she's going to have a litter. So please keep praying for Beulah, but she's much better. Pray for EB, again, Echo Bravo. This is serious. Recovered from COVID, weak from not eating, no stamina or endurance, and no appetite. So pray for strength, stamina, endurance, and the appetite to return to EB, Echo Bravo EB. Okay? And thank you for those that are giving offerings, which is not very many, but it's appreciated. And let's see if I got anything else in the chat. No, I'm okay with the chat. And I'll keep you updated as to what's going on. But remember, what they tell you, these world leaders, is generally exactly what's not going to happen. And Biden and Blinken keep saying we don't want to have a war with Iran. But just go back and look at Biden with his open borders. And look at that attack that came yesterday, which knocked out the pharmacies and the cell phones of one company. That was a hacker attack. Your possibilities for that are China, North Korea, Iran, not so much, and Russia. France, Germany, Italy, Tokyo, they didn't do it, okay? All right? And it's probably not a warning. It's probably more like they're learning their capabilities, and they're starting, and then they're learning what the counter moves are and trying to figure out how they could counter the counter moves. Okay? They counter the counter moves. Then they could become more effective. That's what one of the other things the Iranian warship in the Red Sea is doing, is studying the radar that the American and UK ships are using, studying their aircraft, for whatever they can glean out of that with their radar and their defense mechanisms and so forth, and their radar jamming equipment, and trying to, get a good handle on how to overcome these systems. Now, America can persuade the Saudis, the UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, Oman, Jordan, Kuwait to come up with a certain amount of soldiers to attack Iran with, but before Saudi and UAE get into the fracas, they're going to want to see Yemen neutralized, because they'll be afraid. See, they're all afraid of Iran. They're afraid of Iran, and if they think America's going to really help them, they'll go with America. And there might be some sort of a push to get Israel to go after Iran in a big way, to get a war going with Iran and Israel, although they don't like things like that. Iran may decide to do something like that. I don't know. The daughter of Babylon, America, is going to be gone by the end of the year. Recompenses the very end of July, and I expect the two witnesses in Israel to start working openly. It says Elijah shall come first, so he'll start working openly, and you read that in Malachi 3. Then you study Ezekiel 34, and you see that the rich Satan bots, the millionaires, the billionaires, the big rich guys are going to be wiped out, as will the shepherds, which is the government, and the rabbis, messianic congregation leaders I throw in for good measure. And they're all going to be gone. All right. So, I send my shalom to all those that love Yeshua HaMashiach, and if you like this, please subscribe and hit the like button. It helps. Please subscribe and hit the like button. Okay, 2 hours. I'm getting the time down on this. Good. I'm out. Thanks.